Hello everyone, welcome to Gyandeep, a channel where we talk everything about data science. Okay, so we are embarking onto a new video series on named entity recognition and relation extraction. NER and RE, these are the two very important topics in text mining. There are several other topics like the text summarization, question answering, and so. But then in this video series, we'll be focusing on NER and RE. We'll start by understanding the basic concepts around NER and RE, and then we will learn more about the annotation procedure, so how the data labeling is done for NER and RE. We'll have a brief demonstration of the Level Studio as well. It's one of the annotation tools. These two bullet points that you see will be covering in this video session itself. In the next session, we will cover the custom NER models built on Spacey and also using several of the transformers like the BERT, Roberta, Longformer, Reformer, Big Bird, etc. So we'll get to know about them in the upcoming video. Then we'll also talk about the custom RE models. We will have the code discussion around them, and we'll be essentially referring to Rebel and Refer. They are two state-of-the-art models, and we'll refer both of them in our discussion. Okay, so let's get started. So what is named entity recognition? An NER is used to classify named entities mentioned in the unstructured text into predefined categories, such as the name of the person, organization, location, medical codes, time expressions, and so on. So consider an example. Bill Gates and Paul Allen founded Microsoft. So if you look at this particular sentence, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, they are the person-related entities, and Microsoft is an org-related entity, right? So the idea behind NER is to first detect the presence of the entities in the sentence and then classify them to the specific levels. There are several ways to go about doing the NER. And I have listed here the four different ways. The first one being the ontology based approach. Now, in this case, what happens is we get the domain specific rules, keywords, phrases, text, and so on, and we match these with the target document. We essentially come up with some match score or some values, and that becomes the basis for our scoring of the document. Then the second way is the regular expression, and in this we essentially write the expression which mimics a particular pattern. So there could be a regex for numeric, alphanumeric, or the text, right, in a particular document. But then the problem with the regular expressions is we essentially hardwire them in the document, in the algorithm, and they would follow some specific patterns alone. So if the pattern changes, then the regular expression might fail to pick the respective entity and the corresponding value as well. Then we have the ML-based classification approaches, and these could be based on decision trees or the conditional random forest or hidden Markov model, HMM, and so on. To my understanding, as of now, the CRF is something which is still in use, but I have not seen in the recent times much implementation of the decision trees and the HMM for NER purposes. Okay, so recently much of the focus has been on the deep learning based models. These are essentially the transformer based models, and they tend to perform a lot better in the current scenarios, even with the unseen data or the data for which the training has not happened. Okay, so that was about the named entity recognition. Some of the data sets with respect to NER are listed here. I have taken it from this specific link, so you might want to refer to this this particular PDF file. And in this corpus, there are few very prominent data sets. That's what I would say, like the Cornell 03, everything that starts with Y key, onto nodes, and maybe NCBI disease, BC5 CDR. These are very prominent data set or the corpus which can be used for doing the NER, right? So these are the open source ones and essentially are used to perform the NER for their respective domains or for specific tasks. Okay, now let's move to relation extraction. Relation extraction essentially helps us predict the attributes and relations for the entities in the sentence. Before we consider this example, in fact, let's go back to the old example that we saw in case of NER. Here we had Bill Gates and Paul Allen founded Microsoft. Now we got the person related entities and the org related entities. We know, but then we need to relate these entities, right? So we get the answer to this particular question that who founded Microsoft, right? So your relation entity in this case could be founded underscore by, and here my subject would be person and the predicate would be org, right? And the subject and predicate are linked by founded underscore by relation, right? So that's what the relation extraction is, where you essentially link the two entities by some specific relation. Now again, consider this particular example where we have background, several reports. This is actually taken from PubMed. So it says that there are several reports around the world have reported that some patients who have recovered from COVID-19, in this case recovered from COVID-19 is the outcome, and it is linked to the text in light green, which says range of persistent or new clinical systems or value. Okay, there are multiple ways again in which we can perform the relation extraction. There are two popular ways which I am aware about are pipeline method and the joint method. Pipeline method is the one wherein we first extract all the entities in a particular document, right? So for a particular line, we get a particular sentence, and so we have the sentence parser, and we get the particular sentence, and then we extract the entities out of them, and then we essentially create the triplets, and these triplets become the basis for doing the relation extraction or the classification into the specific relation classes, right? So that's what the pipeline method does. Now, the second approach is the joint method, where the entities and relations they are extracted simultaneously. So we get the entity, and it's also the relation between these entities are extracted at the same time for a particular sentence, right? So we'll see how it essentially happens. The one that I talked about in the previous slide, the refer, RIFRE, this refer is essentially a joint method where entities and the corresponding relations are extracted together or in a joint manner. Okay, so that was about relation extraction. These are some of the data sets that could be used for performing the relation extraction, like WebNLG, TACRED, DocRed. I've taken this one from paperswithcode.com, and you can refer more about the data set by going on to this particular link. Okay, so now the important aspect is it could be a completely different data that you could be getting in your settings, right? So your task could be completely specific, right? And you might have very different requirements. So in that case, you would need to essentially curate the data, and to do that, there are several different tools which are available in the market, right? These are called the text annotation tools, and it's important that we check whether these tools can perform both NER as well as RE or just the NER, because some of the tools you'll find that they can just do the NER, they cannot do the RE part of it. The four open source or partially open source or some trial version available are what I have listed here: Brad, Docano, Inception, and the Level Studio. Level Studio also has the enterprise version, right? Wherein you get to share amongst your team members a specific annotation task. Now, all of these tools are extremely good. We also have the paid version like Prodigy from Stacy where you can do the annotation. In this video series, I intend to take you through a little bit further into the Level Studio. These are all very good tools. I have no specific preference, but then I have found that Level Studio is very easy to install and very easy to operate. And that's why I'm actually in this video going to demonstrate to you a little bit more on the Level Studio. Okay, so with respect to the label studio, now this is the way you essentially get things up and running. So we just have to do a pip install label studio. But if before that, please make sure that you have a separate Python environment which you have created, right? And then you please perform the pip install label studio. Level Studio essentially has a Django server, right? And it creates a Django server and it has the React frontend, right? And so after that, after the installation of the Level Studio, then we start the Level Studio by doing a level hyphen studio start. It will start the Level Studio into localhost 8080. You can change the port number if you want. We then need to sign up and an email address and password would be required. We then, once this is all done, then we straight go to the project creation and we can start labeling the data. We can name the project, we can type a description for it, and we can select the colors for the various labels that we intend to create. The next step is to import the data and upload the data files that we want to use, right? We can use it or import it from the local, or it could be done from the cloud storage as well. Then we can click on the labeling setup and we can choose a template. So Label Studio allows you to perform the labeling on several different forms of the data. It could be images where you want to do the object detection or classification, etc. And it could be just the NER or it could be RE, etc. etc. So we need to choose a template which is corresponding to the task that we have in hand, and then we can start using it and start labeling the names, and finally you can save it and it gets saved. You can export the data, etc. So it's extremely easy to use Label Studio. Okay, so now without further ado, let's now see a quick demo of Label Studio. Okay, so let's get started with a quick demo of Level Studio. I've already started it through my Visual Studio. So you find it running here on localhost 8080. There are several old projects that I have here. Let's start by creating a completely new project and try to understand how NER and RE happens through Level Studio. Okay, so we'll create a new project here and we'll call it project Z 0212. Okay, and this is meant for the demo purposes. We save it, and so here is my new project created, project 0212. We go to the import and we can pick the file. So it gives us the option to upload the files, or we can even add the URL to the data set. So let's upload the files. So this is my file, and then it next asks whether we want to treat it as a CSV, TSV, this CSV, TSV as a list of tasks or time series. So I essentially want it as the list of tasks. So I click on this and then I can do the import. So here we are. So we have imported the data. It's a very small data set, and there is only one line here. That's what it shows. If there are multiple lines, then for each of the line, and even if it's the blank line, then it would generate an ID, right? So ID number 94 is assigned to this particular line. Okay, so then we click on this. We want to get started with it now, but it says okay, complete the setup. So we'll go to setup here, And so here we are on the labeling interface. There are two ways to go about providing the template. We can in fact browse the template, or we can write the code for it, or we can have the visual way in which we can sort of create the template. Let's browse the template and see what is available in the repository of Label Studio. So once we do that, then it takes us to this page where we have the option to essentially label it for computer vision, natural language processing, audio processing, conversational AI, and all the other different tasks. Right? So we'll select the natural language processing, and again under that it says question answering, text classification, NER, taxonomy, RE, machine translation, and so on. We are interested in relation extraction because that will also include the NER. So we pick that. So by default it comes with these different levels: organization, person, date, time. And if you want to change the color, we can directly do it from here, right? If we want to change the name of the labels, we can add the labels from here, or and delete the ones which are existing here, or we can in fact go to the code as well. So if you see the code, it says these are the two different relations which exist, right, in this particular template, where it says its relations are founded by and founded. Okay. So and then the labels are organization, person, and date and time. We can. It's very simple. We can add essentially the newer relations from here. We can keep on copy pasting it, and it will give us the new relations related label. Right. So this is how it looks. Similarly, if you want to add the more labels, then we can just copy it and paste it, and change the value here, and it will, and then change the background color, and it will give us the new labels as well. Okay, so we are all set now, and so we have organization, person, and date, time as my labels. I will save this. Now I'm taken back to the to my editor. So I'm here, and I'll click again on my text. So then I'm taken to this particular screen where we have the text appearing, and the labels are here. I can start doing the annotations now, and I click on the label, and in this case I find that organization is Microsoft, so I can actually select this. Okay, so my organization is selected to be Microsoft, and I can submit it. Okay, so my data base essentially gets up has the first entry here, with Microsoft being the organization entity type. Next, if we find that it has got two persons and related entities, Bill Gates and Paul Allen. So we will identify here the person entity and will update the database. Similarly, again, person and Paul Allen, and update the database. So now we have the entities and the corresponding, and all the entities identified. Now the next thing to do is we want to identify the relations between them as well. So the way to go about it is we will select the first person here. The person is to be associated with the organization. So we selected on person. So it gave me on this screen towards the right hand side sidebar panel. If you see, Bill Gates is the person, and this also provides a chain kind of an icon, right? We'll click on that, and then it will allow us to select the predicate entity, right? In this case, subject entity is Bill Gates, and predicate is essentially Microsoft. So we'll click on that, and it gives us a connecting arrow from Bill Gates to Microsoft. Now we need to define what kind of relationship it is. So we need to click on this three dots, come down to select labels, and here we'll say it is founded by Bill Gates, right? So this particular entity is then identified, right? So org and founded by, and we'll again update this. So now my all the updates are done, and in fact with that I can now in fact go back to my project and even download or export whatever relations and labeling that I did. So I can export in these different formats: JSON, JSON min, CSV, TSV, Kernel 2003. So if I have to do it in the JSON min, then let's see how it looks like. So we have the text here. It gets us the label, start and end, and this on. But then one of the missing things here is the relations. It doesn't give you the relations. So for that purposes, we have to go to JSON and look into the raw JSON file that gets generated. So we'll export this JSON data. So here we are. And if I enlarge this, so we have annotations completed, start, end. And if we further go towards the right, we see the presence of Bill Gates and some of those entities here. Paul Allen is again identified, and we also see the relation, right? So in this case, the from ID to ID, and the type is relation, and in this case the label is found to be or founded by, right? So we need to essentially refer to the raw JSON here, the first one, the first option, to get the relations as well. So we can actually experiment a lot more and get more understanding about the Label Studio. Hope it gave you some understanding to go about as a beginner, right, and perform some immediate annotation tasks that you might be having. I hope you like this video, and we'll meet again in the next video. Thanks.